everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing my June book haul. So first of all, I changed my hair, yes. So I'm a very indecisive person, and on a whim one day I was like, you know what, I kind of want to go back to my natural color. So I was blonde for almost 4 years, but I decided to go back, and this is pretty much my natural color, and I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with how it turned out. I just was like looking for a change. I feel like I've entered a new life phase, and usually when I'm entering a new chapter in my life, I'm like, I must change something drastic about my appearance, and usually that's my hair. So I didn't get it, like I just got a trim, but like I said, once I moved here, they cut it really short. So it just hasn't grown since then, but hopefully like the less bleach that will definitely make it so it is growing a little bit faster. But yeah, I have a ton of books to talk about today, honestly. I have been sent so many in the past little bit, so I just have a lot here to go over. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So first of all, today's video is very kindly sponsored by Inkyard Press in honor of the recent release of Breaking Time by Sasha Alsberg. I'm so excited for Sasha for her next book, and actually her first solo book being out. I know this was a real passion project for her, and I cannot wait to read it, and thank you so much to Inkyard Press for sponsoring today's video. Of course, if you guys aren't familiar with Sasha, she's more on like Instagram and more in the lifestyle side of things now, but she started out as one of the OG booktubers, and this is her second book. Her first book was Zenith, and she wrote that with another author, but this is her first solo venture, and I'm really excited for her. I know how hard she worked on this one. This book follows the main character, Clara, and Clara is very shocked when this mysterious Scotsman appears out of nowhere in the middle of the road, and she thinks her biggest problem is that she hit him with her car, but it actually turns out that he is a time traveler. He has stepped out of another time period, and she actually plays a role in this whole thing as well. So Clara learns that she is actually the last pillar of time. She's an anchor point in the timeline of the world and a hiding place for the goddess's magic. And it turns out that there's actually a dark fate that is hunting these pillars, and Callum has to protect her. So the two of them are the only thing stopping this dark force from taking over the goddess's magic, which obviously is going to have some really bad ramifications. I think this sounds so cool. Obviously, it definitely gives some Outlander vibes, and I've never watched or read Outlander, but this seems like a really interesting take on that whole time travel. Like, Sasha loves Scotland, so I'm sure if anyone is going to do Scotland justice, it is going to be her in this book. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one, and I think it's going to be such a great read, and I'm so happy for Sasha. And thank you once again so much to Inkyard Press for sponsoring today's video. I will have a link for this book down below for you guys, and you can check it out because it is out now. Okay, I honestly don't even know where to begin because this book haul is so all over the place. I have a few pre-orders. As I've mentioned in recent videos, I'm kind of like changing up my reading taste and going with the flow a little bit more. So I have a lot of like new books that I've been intrigued by, some that were sent to me for work that I'm planning on keeping because I think they sound really great. Like, we have a little bit of everything, so I guess I will just go with the pile. But the next book that we have here is Twice as Perfect by Louise Oname. I actually have another book by this author, and I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but this one especially intrigued me because it is about a Nigerian-Canadian main character, which I think is amazing. The main character of this book has a lot going on. She's dealing with her estranged older brother, also helping plan this huge Nigerian wedding for her cousin, and she's dealing with pressure from her parents about the future. So it's going to be, I believe, like a coming of age story about this character dealing with all of those obstacles, all of the things that are happening in her life, and trying to sort all of that out. It's kind of giving me similar vibes to One True Loves, which I just read recently and really enjoyed. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking this one up, and I love this cover. I think it is so beautiful, like even the back, it's just stunning. Next up is Some Mistakes Were Made by Kristen Dwyer. This is a book about two characters who were best friends. They got along really well, but then there was this event that caused this whole rift between them, and they haven't spoken in a year, and one of the main characters had to leave, and they haven't spoken since that. So now this main character is coming back, and it's dealing with all of the pain, everything that was left unresolved between the two of them. So obviously it's going to be a very introspective read. I tend to like books that are kind of like more on an emotional side with a contemporary, which I think this one is going to be, and dealing with with relationships, and I think obviously that's going to be a main topic of this book. So I'm definitely looking forward to diving into this one. Next up is If You Change Your Mind by Robbie Weber. I am so excited for Robbie. Once again, he is on the book tournament. He has a really amazing bookstagram, but I remember at my first book con him talking to me about the book that he was writing and being so excited about it, and it's so lovely to see that like I have the finished product in my hands now, and it's blurbed by so many amazing authors. Like, I'm just really happy for Robbie. So I am so excited to have this book. This book deals a lot with movies. We have a main character who has ambitions of being a screenwriter, and he is actually entering a screenwriting competition to get into the college of his dreams. This is actually a second chance romance, which is one of my favorite tropes ever, but the main character had his first heartbreak, so he's feeling very disillusioned by love. The cause of his first heartbreak ends up returning with the secret that could actually change everything. So this is a male-male romance, and I am just so excited to get into this one. It seems lovely, and Robbie is so lovely, so I'm really proud of him. Next up is a book that I've actually hauled quite a few times now, but that's because I keep on just getting different copies of it. So that is I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. Casey McQuiston, of course, is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue. Also One Last Stop, which I still haven't read, but this is a YA novel by that author, and they haven't written any YA novels before, so I'm really excited for their YA debut. And I really enjoyed Red, White, and Royal Blue. I need to get to One Last Stop. I'm hoping to this summer. But this is about a main character who she has kind of this like academic rivalry with the other main character, Shara Wheeler, and it kind of gives me Paper Towns vibes a little bit. So Shara ends up kissing the main character, and then she like disappears. So then she's trying to figure out what actually happened to her. So this is a sapphic romance, and this is the Indigo exclusive edition. I really love it. It's purple. I love purple. It's my favorite color, so I'm really into the purple. I think this is green on the original copy. I can't actually remember, but I think that the purple is stunning, and I'm just so excited for another Casey McQuiston book. Next is By the Book by Jasmine Galori. This is the second book of the Meant to Be series, so that's a series of books. The first one I have, but I haven't read yet. I know, it's a trend. But If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy was the first book in this series, where it's taking like classic Disney fairy tales that you're familiar with and then turning them into these adult romance novels, which I just am in love with that concept. I think it's so cool. So in this case, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and we have a main character who's working at a publishing house, and she's not exactly where she thought she was going to be at this point in her life. She didn't think that she'd be the only Black employee at this publishing house. She didn't think that she would still be living in her parents' basement. It's just nothing is really working out as she had planned. So she sees this opportunity to try and stand out and maybe get a promotion, and she takes it. But the opportunity is that she has to go and see this like very reclusive, beastly, if you will, author who is like this high profile author, but he's obviously beastly to deal with. So we have this whole Beauty and the Beast story that unfolds between the two of them. I'm really excited for a more modern take on Beauty and the Beast. I think it sounds absolutely amazing, and I just can't wait to get into this one. Next is actually a book that I've already read, and to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I was pretty let down by it, but that book is Set on You by Amy Lee. I was really excited for this book leading up to it coming out. I could not wait. It sounded right up my alley. Like, I really love going to the gym. It's something that I have started to love over the past couple of years after absolutely hating it. This is like the whole catalyst for the story is gym-based, and I thought it sounded adorable. It sounded amazing, really cute, but unfortunately the execution let me down a little bit. So this is essentially an enemies to lovers, hate to love story where the main character is a plus-size, body-positive fitness influencer, and she's at the gym, and then this guy steals her squat rack when she like already has claimed it. She has put her stuff there and just went to go and get something, and then he comes and she tells him, and he refuses to leave. And it made my blood boil, okay? Like, the fact that she was there, it's just so rude. Like, she had her stuff there, and I understand maybe he didn't see it, so then you point it out, but like, that made me really mad. But I just found this story to be a little bit lackluster. Like, I wanted more to happen. I felt like a lot of things didn't really make sense to me. It didn't really seem entirely believable. Like, their lives end up intertwining in some ways that I was like, of course, I know it's a book, but I was like, meh. And I felt like the main character was kind of annoying. Like, I really wanted more for her. I loved the fact that she was a body positive fitness influencer, and I just thought that that could have gone further. But I'll talk about this more in a recent reads video. But yeah, I just kind of was a little bit let down by this one. Next is Trouble Girls by Julia Lynn Rubin. So this is a book that I pre-ordered, and it's actually a queer Me Too inspired Thelma and Louise retelling. So that seems really interesting. And honestly, all I think of when I think of Thelma and Louise, because I've never like actually seen it or anything, but is a Drag Race. I think it was All Stars 2. No, was it 2? All Stars 2? Anyways, I'm one of the All Stars with Katya. There's a scene where they do a Thelma and Louise thing, and yeah, that's just what it makes me think of. But I kind of also think of another book that Hello Girls, I think is what it was called. I wasn't the hugest fan of, so I'm hoping that this will do it a little bit better. Next is It's All in How You Fall by Sarah Henning. I think this sounds like such an adorable contemporary. This is once again a book that I pre-ordered, but it's about a girl who is a gymnast, but she suffers from chronic back pain, and she knows she'll never like get to the Olympics, but she's hoping to be able to get kind of far. And that ends up all coming tumbling down on her when her back injury goes from chronic to actually career ending. So she no longer can be a gymnast. She can't do something that she really loves. So then this character comes in, and he like plays 3 sports. He's really into sports. So he starts to have her like date these different sports that she missed out on. So she's trying to find something that fits her. It's really, really cute. And she in return is trying to set him up with someone, but obviously she ends up falling for him in the end. So I think it sounds adorable. I'm making it sound like I've read it. I haven't read this book yet, but I think it sounds so, so cute, and I'm really, really pumped for this one. Seems like the perfect like poolside summer read. Next, I have a few books that I was sent for work. So if you guys don't know by now, you probably do. I'm not going to mention it all the time, but just because this is the first time I've mentioned it in like a book haul. But I have been working for Penguin Random House Canada, and part of my job is that I will take some photos for the social media, so I get sent books for that purpose. And I don't keep all of them because they're not like all my tastes, but the ones that I am interested in, obviously I'm going to show you guys. So I have a few here. So the first one is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This definitely doesn't seem like something that I would generally venture toward, but my mom read this book and really loved it. And I've said this before, but I was so shocked by how many of you, when I did that big survey asking for your favorite books of all time, so many of you said that this was your favorite book of all time, and that was just really surprising to me. So this is coming out as an adaptation soon, and I would like to read it before that. It's about like a girl known as the Marsh Girl, so she's not like connected with anyone. She's been very secluded from society, but then it's set in 1969, by the way, but a guy ends up being found dead, and the locals actually suspect her as being the main suspect. So obviously like that is very interesting. I'm super intrigued by this book. Not generally what I would go for, but I think that this could be a really like something that I like. Next is Thank You Next by Andy J. Christopher. This is, I actually have another book by this author, but I haven't read it yet. She also has a romance that she wrote about a priest, which I'm not so sure about this, but this one is a satire, I believe. So it does seem kind of similar to the other book that I have by this author, just because that book is called Not the Girl You Marry, and maybe it's just the title, but this one is about a girl who is never the one, but always the last one before an ex that the ex dates before finding like their one and love and everything. The main character actually is a single divorce attorney, which is very interesting, and she ends up having this romance with an up-and-coming chef. I just have been all about like the quick and easy adult romances lately, so when this came my way, I was like, yes, I definitely am intrigued. Next is Serena Singh Flips the Script by Sonia Lawley. So I have read A Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lawley, and I really enjoyed that when I read it, so I definitely want to read more by this author. I can't remember if I have anything else by her, but this is the latest by her other than the Diwali one. So it's about a main character who's trying to flip the script on life and flip the script on what her family expects of her. So she's trying to show that like she doesn't need to have domestic bliss. She can be happy just on her own. She doesn't need a husband. She doesn't need any of that. She can just just be herself and be happy. And I think that seems like a really great message. And the last book that I have here from work is one that I personally requested because I really have been intrigued by it. And that is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I don't know about you guys, but like I'll see a book and then I'll see it everywhere and then I want to read it. I want to know. I'm very easily influenced, and that is definitely the case with this book. I've been seeing it absolutely everywhere between work and then also on like Bookstagram and Book Talk and all of that. So I've just wanted to know what it's all about. Essentially, it is 6 summers to fall in love, 1 moment to fall apart, a weekend to get it right. And it's set in cottage country, Muskoka. So it's set in Canada, which is really exciting. And I'm really into this one and I will probably be reading it very soon. Next is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. So I pre-ordered this book because obviously like Christina Lauren is my favorite romance author duo. So I was so excited to have a new book by them. And this is about a girl who is the daughter of this like very estranged treasure hunter. Like he wasn't exactly the most reliable father because he was always treasure hunting, but the main character has used his hand-drawn maps to offer tourists this guide of Utah. I don't think that sentence came out very nicely, but like you get what I'm saying. You get the gist of it. So this is actually a second chance romance with an ex. Like I believe that the ex just kind of disappeared out of nowhere without really a word or a trace. So yikes. But he ends up coming back and obviously like there's going to be an explanation for that. So it seems really interesting. I love me some second chance romance. So definitely really into this one. Next up, I have a finished copy of Tokyo Dreaming by Amiko Jean. I really loved Tokyo Ever After when I read it last year, so I'm so excited to have the sequel. Tokyo Ever After is about this girl who ends up finding out that her estranged father was actually Crown Prince of Japan. So she finds out that she's a princess and she ends up going to Japan and like taking up her post as princess, and along the way she starts falling for her bodyguard, which is so great. So this is just like the fluffiest, easiest quick read, and in this case I believe that it's a royal wedding that's happening, so really looking forward to this one. And next is How to Live Without You by Sarah Everett. I have another book by this author that I haven't read yet. I know, so there's so many books like that, but this is the latest by this author, and it is about a main character who is dealing with the disappearance of her sister, and she's actually going to discover what happened. So definitely going to be a more emotional read, like dealing with a lot of difficult things, but I've heard some really amazing things about this author, so I'm looking forward to it. Next is Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert. I'm super excited to have a new book by Melissa Albert. This one is coming out, so it's coming out this month actually, but Melissa Albert is the author of The Hazelwood, which I really enjoyed, and this is definitely different than that. Like The Hazelwood deals with more dark fairy tales, and this obviously isn't that, but it is set in 2 different timelines, and I believe it's following a mother in the past and then the daughter in the now, and it's how like their timelines obviously cross and how things that happen in the past end up affecting the future. So it seems very interesting. Like the synopsis is pretty vague, but I'm intrigued. Next is Beating Heart Baby, and this is by Leo Min. So this is coming out in July, and this was also sent to me by the publisher, and it is a tender friends to enemies to lovers story. Friends to enemies to lovers. Woo, that seems like a lot. With AAPI leads celebrating first love, second chances, indie rock, and transitions of all kinds. I don't think I've ever really read a like friends to enemies to lovers story. That seems intriguing though. I'm definitely interested in that. Next we have Debating Darcy by Sayantani Dasgupta, and this is by an author who actually has quite a few books, but this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling and is supposed to be witty and fun, and that sounds like a recipe for success. Next is This Is Why They Hate Us by Erin H. Aceves. I'm really sorry for my pronunciation with that one, but this is about a character who is trying to get over another, like their crush, by just pursuing other romantic prospects, and like prospects plural. So obviously that doesn't really seem like the best recipe for success, but that's what the character is going to try and do. So this is an arc, and it is coming out. Oh, it's actually already out. So this came out in May, so you'll be able to get a copy yourself. Next, I have 2 books in a newer series that started last year. So I have The Witch King and The Fae Keeper by H.E. Edgman. So in order to save a Fae kingdom, a trans witch must face his traumatic past and the royal fiance he left behind. I I'm intrigued to know more about that fiance for sure, and the Fae Kingdom. So if you want to know how long it's been since I've done a book haul, I have like 2 copies. It hasn't even been that long, but I have the ARC and I have the finished copy of this book. But that book is Summer's Edge by Dana Mele, or Male, I'm not entirely sure, I apologize. But this is actually like a spooky thriller sort of read. So here are my rules. You may run, you may hide, you may apologize. Oh, who are we kidding? None of you think you've done anything wrong. You may attempt to escape, but you will not. So it's essentially about this group of teens who are being haunted by the ghost of their friend who died. Like, yikes. Next is Skander and the Unicorn Thief by A.F. Stedman. This is the first in a new middle grade series, it looks like, but it's about unicorn riders. It's kind of giving me like How to Train Your Dragon vibes. I feel like this would have been something that I would have been all over and loved when I was a kid, because I absolutely was a horse girl, and I'm not even ashamed of it. Next, I was sent a paperback copy of Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. I can't decide if I like this more than the original cover, but this cover is so cute. I think the other one gives more New York vibes. This one though does kind of have taxi colors, so I'm into that. Like, that's fun. And the Pomeranian on the front, I love. But if you are unfamiliar with the story, it is about 2 girls who are stuck in New York and they have no phones or anything, and they end up getting separated. Like, it's just this whole thing, but it's a lot of fun. Next, I was sent a finished copy of Bright. This is by a K-pop star, of course. It's actually this K-pop star's 2nd book, and I've heard like so many people have loved them, but I don't think this is really my thing, so I'm definitely going to be passing this one because I think it will make someone very happy. Next is See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Rachel Lynn Solomon, of course, is the author of actually a couple of adult books, Weather Girl, The X Talk, but also Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. So seeing this one, because the cover is similar and also it says See You Yesterday, I thought it was going to be the same, but it is not. I thought it was a sequel or something, but it's not. So I don't know if it like connects and is in the same world. We'll see. But this follows a character who ends up in this time loop on her first day of college. She's hoping that it's going to be like this fresh start and opportunity to live the life she's always wanted, but everything goes disastrously wrong on her first day of college. And then she discovers that she's stuck in a time loop doing it over and over again. And she discovers she's not alone in that. There's actually a guy who is stuck in that time loop with her. So I'm sure we can see where that is going, but it seems like a really cute read. I also was sent a finished copy of the paperback for The Lucky List by Rachel Lippincott. So this is by one of the authors of 5 Feet Apart, and I really wanted to read this book. I definitely prefer the other cover. They changed it for this one. This one's like okay, but I think it's a little bit more simplistic and boring in my opinion. But The Lucky List is about a character who her mother died of cancer, and she ends up finding this list that her mother had, this bucket list for her senior year of high school. So she ends up following that list for her own senior year, and I think that seems like such a fun concept, but also really sad at the same time. I think this just seems like a great read. We are getting to the end of the pile here, I promise. So next is Love Radio by Ebony Liddell, and this is about a character. I'm really excited for this one. It sounds like a very intriguing concept. So we have a character who has this segment on radio like about falling in love, and there ends up being this girl who agrees to go on 3 dates, who doesn't really believe in love, but to like show, he's a love expert, right? So he's planning on showing her what love really is, and I think that just sounds so adorable. Next is Postcards from Summer by Cynthia Platt. This book is actually huge. It's quite massive for a contemporary book, but it is about a character who goes to her mother's summer house that she had never really been to before. And next is Postcards from Summer by Cynthia Platt. This book is actually huge for a contemporary, like it is massive, but it's described as Love and Gelato meets, I forget what it is, The Notebook. So that's very interesting. So it is supposed to be sad. It's supposed to be a heart-wrenching novel about a girl who travels to her late mother's summertime home, and there she learns about the romance and tragedy that ended up changing her life forever. And finally here I have A Cruel and Fated Light by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is book 2 in the Hollow Star saga. So I haven't read the first book yet, but it definitely is one that has been on my radar. I just haven't like gotten to many big chunky fantasies like this, and the first book is pretty big like this one is. So I haven't really heard all that much about this series. I'm not sure how people feel about it. I believe that the author is Canadian. Yes, they live in Ontario, so they are Canadian. They have a cat named Zach. I love that so much. I love when animals have people names. But anyways, I do want to start this this series soon. Okay, so those are all of the books for today's book haul. I know that was a pretty big one, but thank you for sticking through it. If you did, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again so much to Inkyard Press for sponsoring today's video. Do not forget to check out Breaking Time by Sasha Alsberg. I will have a link down below for you guys to check it out. So thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!